All right, hey Algebra 1, just wanted to give you guys a little review video. By this point in time, we are prepping for our test, and so just wanted to make sure that you guys get that same feel as if you're in class. I know normally we would have multiple review days where I'd put problems up and just give you as much exposure as possible, so this is going to be one of those videos, and you kind of see we're not doing the whole chapter yet, so we're going to do section 1, so you see 10.1, Section 2, 10.2, Section 3, 10.3, Section 4, 10.4, and a little note off to the side, we're going to do another video for Sections 5 through Sections 8, okay? So make sure, again, you guys are watching these videos, you are rewinding them, going through them, just keep watching, get as much exposure as you possibly can. And again, make sure you guys can go back, you can redo Edpuzzle videos, and ask me questions via email or whenever we do Zoom meetings. Take advantage of those when they come up. All right, guys. So let's jump into it. We'll erase this little note here. And from section 1, this was graphing. And it was graphing in the form of y equals ax squared plus c. We didn't have that bx in the middle. And so I put a little thing off to the side. These are the three numbers that we're going to use for x. We're going to plug in a -1, a 0, and a +1. And a couple things just to review before we jump into it. Remember that these will all make a parabola shape. That's a smiley face or that's a frown. And the value for a, which is the coefficient in front of x squared here, if that's a positive number, it's going to make a smiley face. That's a opening up parabola. And the next thing I wanted to talk about, if it was a negative, if a is a negative, it's going to make a frowny face. Okay, so the next thing is this value right here for c. If it says plus a number, that's going to take your whole graph and move it up the y-axis. If this were to say minus a number, it's going to take your graph and move it down the y-axis. All right, so let's get set up. Eventually, we're going to be graphing it. So we got our x and y-axis. We do know that this is going to go up 2. Right off the bat, you can see that this is going to be a +2. So I do know that if I go up 2, there is going to be an intercept right there. I also know that since a is a positive, it's going to make that smiley face parabola. So the next thing I have to do is just plug in these values, -1, 0, and 1. Let's do the easiest one first, which would be 0. So if I plug in 0 for x squared is 0, I get 0. 0 times 1/4 is still 0, and 0 plus 2 is 2. So one of the points I have off to the side is going to be 0, 2, and that's the point right here that I've already graphed. Okay, so next one, let's plug in -1. So, want to make sure you are able to really see the whole process. So let's write this one out. -1 squared is a +1, and then 1/4 times 1 is just 1/4. And then we're going to add 2, so that's just going to be 2 and 1/4. Okay? So what you're looking at here is you're going to have another point. When you plug in a -1, you're going to get a 2 and 1/4 coming out. All right, now, I really hope you guys remember that parabolas, they make that perfect symmetrical shape. That's like you have a book and you close it, there's a perfect symmetrical shape. If you have a point on this side, it's going to match another perfect point on the other side. So what that means is -1 is 2 and 1/4. That means that +1 is also going to be 2 and 1/4. So I don't even have to worry about plugging it in. I already know what the answer is. So let's go ahead and graph. We go to the right one, and then I'm going to go up 2 plus a little bit more. So just to show you, we're going to go right 1, up 2, and a little bit more because of that 1/4. Then I'm going to go left 1, and it's going to be the same thing, up 2 and a little bit more. Okay? So it's going to make this smiley face parabola that went up 2. It's going to be a little bit wider than normal. Okay, how do you know that? Because that's a fraction. That's another thing. If a is a fraction, it's going to make a slightly wider parabola. If a is a number bigger than 1, it's going to make a slightly skinnier type parabola. Okay, so there's from section 1. Section 2, all I really care that you guys gather here is how to get the vertex. Okay, so step 1 in solving for the vertex is you need to get x. You remember the technical term for this is the axis of symmetry. So we're going to do a negative b divided by 2a, which is going to give us x. We're going to plug it back in and get y. X and y together is the vertex. All right, so the equation gives us a positive 8, but this guy over here says make it a negative. So we got a negative 8 over 2 times, and what's a? A is negative 2. So this is negative 8 over negative 4. Negative 8 over negative 4 makes a positive 2. So if I know what x is, I know what the axis of symmetry is. I also know the very first point of my vertex. Now I got to take this 2 and plug it in for x here and plug it in for x here. So let's see what that would look like. Negative 2 parentheses 2 squared plus 8 parentheses 2 plus 5. All right, do the math here. 2 squared is 4. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. 8 times 2 is 16. And we're going to add 5. All right, let's see what we got. Negative 8 and 16 are going to make a positive 8 plus 5. And that's going to give us 13 right there, I believe, right? That's going to give us 13, which is our y value. Okay, and then that y value completes the information needed to get the vertex. So this right here is our vertex. And that's all I need for you to get from section 2. Section 3, I'm looking for you to solve for the vertex again, but also get me the x and y intercepts. Okay, so let's start with the intercepts because that's the easy part. This is what's given. You have 2 binomials, and you're going to set them both equal to 0. So x minus 2 equals 0, x minus 4 equals 0. One of the intercepts is 2. The other intercept is 4. So 2 and 4 are the x intercepts. So that's part of the answer that I needed. The second part of the answer, I need to get the vertex. Step 1 is get x. So here's P, here's Q. So I'm going to put those underneath it just so that you guys see where's he getting these numbers from. And this is the equation we use. P plus Q divided by 2. So 2 plus 4 divided by 2, that's going to be 6 over 2, so 3. So what we have here is the first part of our vertex, 3. We take that value, and we're going to go ahead and plug it in for x in both of these positions here and get our y value. So then we have 3 minus 2, which is 1. And then over here we're going to have a 3 minus 4, which is a negative 1. And then we're going to multiply them together, and that's going to give us a negative 1. Moving out. Okay, so there's our y value, and when we put those together, that is what creates our vertex. All right, now, last one here, section 4. So I simply want you to solve, okay? Sometimes the book may say graph to solve. Don't do that, all right? That's not going to be precise enough. So you could try factoring. If you really want to think ahead, you could try using the quadratic formula, which we'll do in our next video. I'm thinking factoring is going to work for this one. So if you see how it's given, the 7x is not in the right position. We got to take that 7x and move it over. So we have a negative x squared. Moving that 7x over gives us minus 7x plus 8. Okay? Now the next thing you should see is we don't want that negative sign out there. We want to factor out that negative. So do that, and then that's going to leave an x squared plus 7x minus 8. And this seems like it could factor for us. So let's break that down. X squared. These signs are opposite. We're going plus, minus. When that is the order that they're given in the trinomial, in here, we're going to also go plus, minus. Now think of factors of 8, that when you multiply make 8, but when you add or subtract them, they make 7. And in this case, these guys are opposite signs, so we're going to use subtraction. So 8 and 1, that's all we need to do here. And we're going to put 8 here and the 1 here, because a positive 8 minus 1 makes a positive 7. And the final step is you're going to need to solve each of these parentheses. So this one's going to give you a negative 8, and this one's going to give you a positive 1. And that's going to be our solution. All right, guys? Hopefully that was pretty helpful for you. And another video is going to be coming your way with sections 5 through 8 to finish out the chapter. Again, miss you guys. Hope you're doing well. We'll talk to you soon.